Okay, so going a bit faster now, I'll get onto the table to start with. And so you've got all the steps in the notes, but I'm just going to do a couple of extra little things that might help the really pedantic or fussy people like me who want to get the table centred exactly in the room. So in the notes it just tells you how to draw it, but not how to get the position exactly right, but I will show you that too. So firstly we need a layer. So as I usually do, I'm just going to make the layers on the fly. So a fern. And because furniture tends to be, or is often timber, I tend to use an orangey sort of colour for that. Again, the colour is up to you. The line weight as well, I tend to make a lightish line weight, not my lightest line weight, but fairly light. And so I'm just getting the standard layers up for you. Here we are. So furniture, I'm sure here will be oh no, they're doing a 0.25. I actually make it a bit larger than that, but we'll go with this 0.25. And make it the current layer. Okay, so you start by drawing a rectangle. Notes. 1200 by 600. Right, so before we use the polyline to draw the walls, to start with that square shape, we could have used the rectangle command, would have done the same thing. So rectangle makes a polyline. Just a quick way of making a polyline between one that's the shape of a rectangle. Click on rectangle, and then just click a point roughly in the middle of the room. Doesn't really matter where, because you can move it afterwards. Click a point, and then we want it to be 1200, which is our x, or our distance across, and then comma 600. Okay, so now we need to copy it, and we have to think a little bit about the way we're going to do that. So I'm going to select it first by clicking on the edge, and then click copy. And you can see then it'll go straight to asking for a base point, and then I could click a point, and then you can see it's going to copy it if I keep clicking new points. But I just want to go back to the selection and show you the different options there, because it can work differently. So I've pressed escape to cancel everything, and this time I'm going to click copy first. Now, this is where AutoCAD's a little bit confusing, but it's a good thing that it gives you all these different options. It's really flexible. So if you choose the command first, then it's going to say, well, there's nothing selected, so it's going to ask you to select objects. So now I can select my rectangle, but this time I need to let it know I've finished selecting. Right, so whenever you said asking for select objects on the command line and you finish, just remember to press enter to move on to the next step, which is again that base point. Right, so just to go back, so before the first time I clicked on the object, then I chose copy, and I didn't need to press enter because it knew I'd finished selecting, because of when I chose the command. Right, so those are the two different ways of selecting and then starting your commands. It's noun verb or verb noun. Right, so noun verb, select the objects first, and then say what you want to do. Right, and that works. If you do it the other way, verb noun, choose the command, then select the objects. You just need to remember to press enter when you do it that way. But otherwise the commands work exactly the same way, either way. And so then you'll see with copy it'll always ask you for a base point in AutoCAD. And in this case I want it to go up, so I'm going to pick it up on the bottom corner. Either bottom left or bottom right, doesn't matter. Because then I can bring it up and snap to the corner above. Complete. Now the great thing with AutoCAD, it always is set to keep copying if you want it to. So I don't need to choose copy again, I can just keep clicking new points and snap onto each of those corners. But I'm going to press enter and just show you if I wanted to go down instead. I'll choose copy, select it, enter. Right, so to go the other way, I'd need to choose the top left corner as my base point, or the top right. And then I can come down and snap to the corner below. Right, so hopefully you can see there how useful having that base point option is, because it allows you to copy really precisely by snapping onto these points And we know those points are exactly 600 mil apart because we typed that in. So I'll choose copy one more time. I think there were 5 in total, aren't there? I haven't looked at this for years. Where's my drawing? Oh, sorry, it's here. 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Okay, so we need 5 rectangles. So I've got those. And now I'm going to draw the arc at the end, at either end. And yeah, I'll use 3-point. That's a good one. So with the arc tool, we'll go to 3-point. So we're going to click on the corner point. You can start on either end, doesn't matter which one. Then I'm going to either by eye choose where I want the point to be, and that would be fine in this case because we can adjust it afterwards. Or, again, if you're fussy like me, you might want to get the exact middle, and you can move on to the midpoint, but really important that you don't click on that point. If you click on the midpoint, the arc won't work because it will be a straight line. You don't want that. So if you're going to use this method, just avoid clicking, but move your cursor onto the midpoint, and then it's going to give you a projection from the middle, exactly. Right, so that's an option, but like I said, you don't have to. You can actually click anywhere, virtually, and then come down to the opposite corner and finish the arc. So now, if you want to adjust it, you can always select it, and this is one of the best things in AutoCAD. It's really easy to then use these grips, those blue handles, and then move that point anywhere you like to get the curve you want. Yeah, really flexible with curves. There's no exact measurement, so just by eye. Yeah. This is fine. Yeah, normally. Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah, if you wanted that, probably at first, the method I showed you with the midpoint would work. You could type 100 there. That would work. But what a lot of people would do is draw in an extra line. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like when you're drawing by hand, draw construction lines. So if I draw a point, so I draw a line from that midpoint, take it up 100. And then when you're drawing the arc, it's really easy because you can just snap onto those points and it's simple and you know it's exactly 100 and then delete your line. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, super powerful but also quick usually and easy. So, okay, so I've got my first arc and now I do want it to be exactly the same on the bottom. Now in the notes it tells you that you, I think, need to draw, or that you can draw an extra line to help you with this. I'm going to show you, you don't really need that extra line. I'm going to click on this arc to select it, of course, and then I'm going to click mirror, and then pick up the midpoint of that middle rectangle on the left-hand side, or the right, doesn't matter which side you start, left or right. So I've got the midpoint there, and then I'm going to come across and get a perfectly straight horizontal line. That's called a mirror line. So I started on the midpoint on the right, and now I'm coming across, and I'm going to snap to the midpoint on the opposite side. So really, I'm trying to get a horizontal line there. So if you think about it, that's where the mirror would be, that we're flipping across to get an exact copy on the bottom, a mirror image. So when you're using mirror, you just need to think about where that mirror plane or mirror line needs to be. So just so you can see there, it could be vertical, and I'd be mirroring to the right. But I don't want that. I want it to be horizontal, so it's mirroring down. So again, the two sides, left and right, should give you a horizontal line. Click, and then this is where people get a bit worried with mirror and think, oh no, it's not working because it's highlighting the original. What it's asking is if I want to delete the original shape. But I don't, I want to keep it. If you see an option like that where it's got something highlighted, it's got the no with the little dot next to it and it's highlighted down the bottom too, you don't have to type in N or anything, you just press enter. And we're done. So that's mirrored my arc. Right, so now I want to get rid of these extra lines under the arc. So if you remember, you can use explode. I'm going to select both those rectangles and then click explode and then just delete these two lines. And there we go. So I'll just go on and do the credenza and then you can keep going with this, but we might also centre it. So I'll draw another rectangle, and for my first point, I'm just going to click a point by eye inside the room somewhere, and then type in the size, which is 3600 across, comma 500. Enter. Okay, so if you remember what I was showing you, not in the recording, but showing you earlier about the fillet command, you can use that to round off the corners. But here, we want squared off corners or angled corners. So for that, you use chamfer instead. So fillet gives you the rounded corners, chamfer gives you those beveled or arrowed corners or angled corners. So with that, the distance, just trying to see, it's somewhere here, 7. Okay, so you need to type D after you click chamfer, and you find it underneath the little option there with fillet, and that's where you'll find chamfer. Type D, enter to set the first distance, which is 70, and then enter, and then on the command line you'll see it'll ask you for the second distance, but it'll just put the same measurement in those angled brackets, which means you can press enter to have the same distance in both directions. In other words, you're going to get a 45-degree chamfer. And then you just need to choose the 2 lines that you want with your chamfer. And so there is an option, you can do them all in one click, but because it doesn't give you the steps for that in the notes, I won't show you that yet, but you might work it out. Otherwise, just go around repeating commands. So this one's a bit different to commands like copy and move, because you can't select multiple objects. It works with 2 things. So after you finish one, you're just going to click chamfer again. You don't need to set the distances, it'll remember that, but then you can just go and choose the next pair of lines, and then click chamfer again, and then the next pair. That'll work. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it makes life so much easier. Yeah, being able to be accurate when you want it to. I mean, you don't have to be that accurate if you don't want to, but when you want to, it's really easy. So, so the last thing I'll show you there, that's not in the notes, but it's a good thing to try, to get this now centred in the room. Yes. So there are a few tricks for that. But remember, don't be afraid to draw in extra lines. And because we don't have a layer for that, and I don't think there is one in the list here, I don't think we gave you a list of extra layers. Yeah, so that's fine. I'm just going to go back to layer 0. So you might remember that's what the file started with. So it's always got layer 0. That's like a system layer. So I'm going to go back and use that, and then just draw a line from the midpoint of the room at the top down to the midpoint of that wall on the bottom. Now, here it's really important, I'll just start that again, really important that you start on the top actually, now I think about it. Because, well, what would happen if I tried to use the midpoint at the bottom? Exactly. The midpoint is not in the middle of the room here because we've cut that hole for the door. So it's really important, that you start on the top. Yep, that's it. So, and then remember I had perpendicular turned on. So by coming down, we can draw at a right angle to that wall automatically. Click on that point, and we've got an exact centre line. And now I'm going to click on my credenza. I'll do that first. Click move, and then find the midpoint of that edge, and simply snap it onto the line, perpendicular, and it's centered. Same with the table. I'll just select it all with a window going, now this time, it's going to help me if I go left to right because I don't want to select the line. If I went the other way, right to left, it would select the table but also the line. I don't want to move that center line. So left to right, that's where that selection of a window, the blue one, helps a lot. So I've selected my objects, I'll click move. but I can't help myself. I'm going to show you a little great option. If I clicked move first, it would ask me to select objects. So say I'd made a mistake and I went and selected everything by going right to left. I'll select the table, but I've also got the line. I don't want the line. I don't have to start again. And this is where it's helpful that it's still in that select mode, because it gives me a chance to deselect things if I don't want them. But sometimes it is better to do it this way. So to deselect, the easy way is hold down Shift, and then you can click on anything to take it away from that selection set. And it'll tell you, so down here it tells me 12 total, but then it found one when I held down Shift and removed it, and now there are 11 total. So I finished selecting. Now I can press Enter to finish, and or let it know that I finished, and I'll go and find the midpoint of the arc, which may come up as a quadrant. Quadrant is just the top of the arc. Or you can find the midpoint of one of these lines, it'd be the same. And then again, just come across to the left and snap to that line. So now the table's centred in the room. And then, now I don't think you've really given measurements for the spacing in this direction, but it's probably a helpful thing if you know how to place this exactly going the other way too, so I'll just do that. So remember, don't be afraid to put in extra lines. It's easy to delete them. So I'm going to use offset. And so let's say I want the credenza to be 100 mil from the wall. So I'll type 100, enter, and then I'll select one of the lines of the wall, just click inside, and then I can just select the credenza, click move, pick it up on that same midpoint, and then just snap it onto my line. And then delete that line. So then we might want the table to be, well, I'll just see. Yeah, so let's say we want the table end to be 2 metres from the wall. So again, I'll use offset and just offset my wall, and then move my table. Yep. And now I can just get rid of these extra lines, but I know everything's where I want it to be. In real life, you don't need to be that fussy with the placement of furniture that isn't built in, because people don't get out their tape measure to move chairs and tables around a room normally. So that's the way you can do your drawings. Yeah, some do, but normally probably don't need to worry. So yeah, but it's still just good to know how to do it. So anyhow, I'll give some time to keep going with that, and we'll do the chairs after.